Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and we're here for yet another edition of our daily drop podcast series. And we're here to talk some Carolina football today, in particular. Talk about some comments that were made recently by Joel Klatt. For those who don't know, he's a color commentator and analyst who works for Fox, big college football guy. And you know, you're probably sitting there like, a lot of people probably don't know who that is. No disrespect to Joel Klatt. There's millions of people in the world who have no idea who I am either. So, no disrespect.
You're not Joel Klatt.
When I say that, exactly. I'm definitely not.
A lot
Joel
of people
Klatt.
know who he is, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've heard the name, but I couldn't really put a face to it until I went and Googled it. I was like,
he's respected.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a respected guy.
People sometimes get him confused with Josh Pate.
Yes.
But Josh Pate does a lot of good stuff too, and he's out there grinding. I've got nothing against that. I like guys that grind. Mm-hmm. Klatt is on TV, and Klatt, I think, is someone that coaches in the industry might respect as much as most of the analysts out there.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's pretty evident when you kind of search his name and search what were the comments we're here to talk about in particular, because there was a lot of headlines kind of written about it. And essentially he came out and I think was kind of asked about, what kind of team will North Carolina be on next season under Bill Belichick. And to quote him directly, he said, quote, "So like trying to predict what's going to happen with Bill Belichick in North Carolina is a fool's errand. They could be an 8-win team. They could be a 2-win team. I have no idea what to expect from the Tar Heels." Also, this quote I'm reading has a typo in it as well. So whoever wrote this needs to go in there and fix that. Not our article, though. It's a random story. Just notice that typo right there. That's why I'm here to read.
We generally don't write articles of what other people say and write.
And we definitely don't have typos in any of our stories either. That's never happened over here at Tar Heels.
You know how many things I post without even reading, like on Deadline and stuff? And my wife will text me the next morning, by the way, you had like 4 typos. I'd like to give her admin access. She can go in there and fix it.
Just hire a full-time typo guy that just goes in there.
It's hard to not have typos when you're rushing on Deadline and stuff.
Oh, yeah, especially you're trying to bang out 5 stories after a game in 4 hours. Yeah, no, it's understandable.
So his comments I thought were very interesting, which is why I thought we should do a podcast on it, because of who he is, mm-hmm. and because the way he presented it. And I think, and I believe you agree with me. I think he's right.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any way. We've done stuff about expectations. What are fair expectations? I think that's okay to do. You can have expectations, but when it comes to actually projecting, I don't think anybody has any idea. You can be right and say they're going to go 8-4, and they're going to win these 8 games and lose these 4. You could be right, but you don't know. There's not a whole lot to base it on right now. They lost 52 scholarship players from last year's team. And we don't know if Gio Lopez is the guy at quarterback. We don't know what happens if he goes down. We don't know what they have in the interior of the defensive line. There's some bodies there. There's some impressive talent there, but there's not a lot of been there, done that. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they haven't added to the interior of the defensive line much in the last month or so, last 3 weeks. So they're probably fairly close to being done. Those are big question marks, mm-hmm. quarterback and defensive line. And because of that, and because of the chemistry dynamic of all these new guys, and because we don't have any idea if the greatest NFL coach of all time will be worth a damn in college. You think about a lot of success. Bill Walsh was a legendary coach in the NFL, went back to college to Stanford, was okay for a couple of years, but really struggled, ended up not being a good run. Mm-hmm. John Robinson had success in the NFL, went back to Southern Cal and just it was okay. Like Mac's second stint at Carolina was okay, but nothing to write home about. It mm-hmm. wasn't what he expected. So we don't know what Belichick's going to do. We don't know if they lose a couple of games, the way he handles the program losing, if suddenly college kids are completely turned off by that and they cave, or mm-hmm. if he's a great coach at getting them to learn from mistakes and they start slow and they finish strong. We have no idea. And that's what he's talking about. And I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, and if anybody out there is, saying with any type of certainty that Carolina under year 1 and Bill Belichick is going to do this, I mean, it's not true. It's speculation. That's the only thing you can do at this point. Again, like you said, the sheer amount of roster turnover, the question marks about Belichick, a first-year coach in college, never coached in college before. He is 70-plus years old. Like there are a lot of tangible question marks you can look at and say, how do I make a firm prediction on what Carolina is going to do this year? I just don't think that's something you can do right now because of all those factors. And it's funny because I put out a tweet probably about a week ago now. I think it was sometime last week, kind of asking people like, what are realistic expectations from an individual perspective of what Bill Belichick will do in year one at North Carolina. And again, expectations and predictions of what's going to happen are different things. Yeah, totally different things. But I thought it was interesting because I would say that I got a lot of responses on it. Big thank you to everybody who did that. But I would say the response I saw the most of was like, 8+ wins, 10+ wins. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, like, obviously there's a lot of excitement with him coming in. A lot of Carolina fans can predict 8+ wins no matter what kind of thing, no matter football or any other sport. They're going to back their team before the season starts. So I have to take some of that with a pinch of salt. But I just found some of that interesting because there was a lot of other responses too, where people are like, you know what, as long as we're improved and, as long as we, are better on defense and we're better on this side of the ball, then I don't really care what the record is. And, I can see that kind of side of the argument as well. But trying to sit down, I've been saying it for months to you and behind the scenes as well, with just all the fluctuation and roster turnover and everything, trying to figure out what this team's going to be before they even snap a ball under Bill Belichick and this new regime. We got no idea, man. There's no way you can predict it, especially with the question marks at quarterback that you mentioned, the defensive line question marks. What is the defense going to look like? I mean, I've said it. I'm like a broken record saying that until I actually witness with these two eyeballs a good defense at North Carolina, I'm not really going to believe that's what they're going to have. I mean, there's just so many question marks going into this season that until we see them play some ball and actually get into the meat of it, we're just not going to know what this team is and where this program's going to, potentially go under Belichick. And I think that's expected. And I also think that, I think there needs to be a little bit of, leeway with what they do in year one, because this is a massive kind of rebuild that Bill Belichick's, trying to do here with,
how much
scholarship players leaving. You know what I mean?
I don't think a guy with 6 Super Bowl championships as a head coach and 2 as a coordinator at 73 years old goes to college for leeway.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I just don't know how much leeway I would give him because I don't know if he would want it. I don't know. When Mac came in, he kept talking about how we had to build things. Mm-hmm. And Mac was 67. Belichick will acknowledge, we got to build, but we got to win right now.
Mm-hmm. And he's being backed more financially to do so, which plays a factor.
Yeah.
Should play a factor.
I think is the fans that responded to your tweet, I look at it this way. Rice and New Mexico State fans are thinking bowl game right now. That's the way fans are. Once you get into the summer and you start thinking about, that we can win that game here. We're not that bad there. But now you have such a changeover in every roster. Everybody gets convinced that the guys we left, they weren't as good as we thought they were. The guys that are coming in, they're really good. Not thinking that the place they left, their fans are thinking, they weren't that good. Mm-hmm. So by having an influx of so many players, people are like, wow, we've got, look at all these guys we got from Washington. They were in the national title game a year and a half ago. That's great. We got a linebacker who was at Nebraska last year. We've got this guy and that guy. And I think that fans have a tendency of over-evaluating when there's nothing else to look at. So, for example, Thaddeus Dixon might be better in many fans' eyes now than he was 2 months ago, because they have nothing else to look at than what they already have, and there's a little hope in there. Then you throw on top of that the Belichick factor. They expect the greatest coach of all time to make it. Well, if he can win in the NFL, of course he can win in college, even though it's a different sport in many respects. So I think that's a big part of it. To me, that's why it's more of a wide range. Now, Klatt said they'll win more than 2 games. They've got Richmond. They'll beat Richmond. They'll beat Richmond. They'll beat Charlotte. Okay, they'll beat Stanford. Mm-hmm. They'll win some. They'll beat Wake. They'll win some ACC games. I think 4 is the low end. If they have no quarterback, if Gio just isn't ready for this level, I think he's probably going to be at least solid. Yeah, they have no quarterback, then I think it's trouble. If the defensive line really doesn't come along like they hope it can, and they need it to, then I think you're looking at 4 is the absolute bare minimum. I think what's more interesting is what really would be this team's high end.
Yeah, that's so hard to say.
I think the high end, because really 4 is bare minimum, and I think 5 or even 6.
You can make an argument that that's the bare. Yeah, you can make an argument 5 or 6 be the bare minimum. Yeah,
because they're pretty good on the offense. They should be pretty good on the offensive line. They got a lot of receivers. I think they'll be fine at running back. I think Goss is a stud. They're loaded in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be really, really good on special teams, and they've got they got enough linebackers, and they've got. I think they're going to be okay defensive end. That's one reason they may not have tugged too hard at Bo Atkinson's pant leg as he left, because they kind of like what they have on the rush ends. They got some dudes that can get to the quarterback. So they have a chance to be in a lot of games and be pretty solid. So let's say 5 or 6 is the minimum. I just don't have any clue what the high end is. Let's say Gio Lopez is the second coming. We don't know. Nobody knew what Cam Ward was going to be when he left Incarnate Word, which was a lower level than what South Alabama.
Yeah, South Alabama. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We don't know if DeAndre Robinson is going to be an absolute stud in the middle of that defensive line getting 700 snaps. We don't know these things. But if they are really good, then suddenly 6 goes to 7, 8, and 9. I can see that happening with this schedule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think with the schedule, I'm glad you brought the schedule too, because I think that's why you could sit here and kind of realistically make a strong case of 8 wins seems like a good first season for Bill Belichick. 8+ wins seems like kind of a really good first season for Bill Belichick. And I understand why some people are sitting here saying, no, I want 10+ wins when you look at the who's coming in and the money that's being pumped into the program and what they've kind of done in the portal. But like you've said, I think the key there is a lot of these new parts, there's no evidence to suggest or know what they're going to be at North Carolina. But again, you talked about O-line and D-line. I mean, so much of the offensive line and D-line is chemistry. I mean, chemistry and playing together and knowing how each other plays and tendencies.
Especially the
especially on the O-line, you got all these new guys down there. It's like, well, that's another question mark. Like, okay, I like a lot of the pieces on the O-line, but how do they mesh?
Chemistry on the O-line, trust on the D-line.
Yeah, and again, how does that
develop both? It takes time.
How does that translate when you've got so many new faces on both sides?
You had last year's guys talking about lack of trust at times too, and they'd been playing together for years.
And that's the thing. That's why it's so hard to predict with such a new look roster, and not to mention a completely new coaching staff and football program with guys behind the scenes as well. I think that's why Joel Klatt makes a great point. And I think if you ask a lot of Carolina fans to give their honest opinion, I think they'd say the same thing. It's like, here's what I would like to happen. Here's my expectation, but actually predicting what's going to happen, those are two very, very different things.
And one other thing to consider is somebody on their schedule is going to be so much better than anybody thinks right now. And so many people are high on isn't going to be as good. Like Central Florida can end up being really good. Mm-hmm. They're rekindling a flame. There's talent there. They did a lot in the portal. They could end up being a lot better than people realize. So that game there could end up being, let's say Carolina goes down there and loses. Like when Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt last year, everybody shoveled dirt on Virginia Tech. Well, lo and behold, Vanderbilt was okay. Mm-hmm. They beat Alabama. So that could be that type of game for Carolina going to Central Florida. But let's say going to Syracuse, a lot of people are high on Syracuse because Fran Brown's done a really good job, but maybe they're not as good as they were a year ago or even close, or as what people expect, because they could have a question mark at quarterback. They lost some significant playmakers on offense as well that I'm not sure they replace. So let's say that flips. You just never know when you look at the schedule. College football teams, especially now, rarely turn out exactly as people expect. Very few of them do.
No, yeah.
In North Carolina, I think it's fair to have an expectation of what should happen, but to then look at this roster and say, this is what they should do, I don't think you can do that.
No, I don't think
the team and the program and the coaching staff should do this. Mm-hmm. Looking at that roster, you can't look at that and say, well, they should at least do this.
No, you can't. You just can't do it right now. So,
and I think
that's what's going to make fall camp so interesting and everything.
Well, I'm not sure fall camp's going to tell us that much either.
It probably won't tell us.
I think quarterback will. It depends on how much we get to see.
I was going to say, yeah, the access is kind of the number one.
I mean, you and I knew when we watched Drake a couple of years ago. Some in the media thought it was going to be Criswell, and we watched Drake like this. It's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. He's light years ahead. And so we knew he was going to be really, really good. And plus, Dina was so high on him. I always trust Dina's opinion on stuff like that. So we knew Drake was going to be really good. If we get a chance to watch practice, I'm going to watch Gio a ton because I want to get a feel for what he's like. But we're not really going to know if this team has enough at quarterback, has enough in the interior of the defensive line, and maybe is good enough at linebacker until they get through the first month. And game number 5 is Clemson.
Yeah, that one's circled on the calendar.
I think it's game number 5, right? Game number 5?
I believe so. I'll double check while you're talking, but I'm pretty sure you're right about that.
Yeah. So then you're going to think you know who they are after 4 games. And old Dabo comes in with what should be a pretty damn good team. A lot of people think that Clemson, could be a contender in the CFP this year. Is that the 5th game?
Yeah.
Look at it. Yeah. So then we still may not know. It may take until November.
Yeah. And I think just to reiterate it, with whole new regime, all these new faces, 52 scholarship players going out the window. I mean, I think that's fair to be like, we might not know what this team really is and where this program is headed until, halfway through the season. Yeah.
And some sneaky tough road games. Central Florida, Syracuse, Cal on a Friday night.
Even the opener.
They got to go to state. They got to go to state.
Yeah. Oh, that's just been
the opener against TCU. Let's not forget they were in a national title game 2.5 years ago.
I think that one is a game that I think a lot of Carolina fans are obviously looking forward to and confident with. But I mean, that's a game I circle and I wouldn't be. I kind of expect Carolina to lose that game potentially because
all the newness. Yeah. We've seen teams be a comedy show at times in openers because of newness. So I do think Carolina fans should be pretty confident that the areas that can really kill you in openers, like mistakes on special teams, probably won't be there. That's why I like a lot of the additions they made. Some of the older guys, like a Coleman Bryson, who will come in and play a ton of special teams at Minnesota. So you added some experienced special team guys. You're gonna see Will Hardy on some special teams. You're gonna see Caleb Cost on some special teams, guys like that. So I think they have a chance to be really good on special teams and not at least hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But what about offensive defense? That's going to be a tough opener, a very, very tough opener.
I agree.
If you're at TCU, what do you scout?
That's what I'm saying. You can look at it from their perspective too, and be like, it's kind of tricky for them too, because I mean, you have no idea what kind of team you're going to run into. Maybe that's an advantage for Carolina, especially early on in the season. I mean, the fact that there's just going to be there's no tape for TCU to really look at all, and then there's going to be so little tape for other opponents to look at going into those games. I mean, that could be a positive for North Carolina too if you look at it that way, but. With how college sports is going, early on in the season, nobody really knows because there's just so much roster turnover everywhere that it's hard to kind of know which you're
going. Are you getting excited? It's early June.
Yeah.
Because a month ago when this would come up, I am not ready for it.
No, it's the closer it gets, the more excited I am about it, just because of, I think, the sheer amount of attention that's going to be on North Carolina, and rightly so, in year one under Bill Belichick. But again, like we've said, all these new faces, I mean, we just have had so limited access. And who knows how that changes in fall camp? Probably doesn't change much at all, but just the limited access we've had, it's like, I'm just looking forward to seeing this team play a game because that's when we're really going to know, okay, it's finally here. What does Bill Belichick do? We can kind of get rid of all the other hype and talk about everything else and just focus on football and what Carolina can be under him. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm sure you are too, but
I think an easier prediction is how many viewers the TCU game. That I've been crunching TV viewership numbers going back to 2019 for a piece I'm working on, which by the time we run this may run. We're going to do a pod on it too. And the reason TV numbers are so much more important now is because it will in part determine how much revenue you get because the unequal revenue sharing the ACC is going to start using, which I think is wise. And it's very interesting. Carolina's numbers aren't terrible. They've been pretty good during the Mac Brown years. They tapered off some last season because apathy will do that. And not playing big games will do that too. But it's a really good time for UNC to usher in this regime with respect to the unequal revenue sharing because TV numbers are going to be huge for Carolina and they'll make more money as a result because the way the league's going to dish out the money. So I will say it now. I'll go ahead and throw it out there now. We can continue doing this as we get closer. I'm thinking 9 million, 10 million.
Especially on a Monday night. I mean, that's the only
Monday night standalone game. Monday night slot. I think a lot of NFL people are going to watch out of curiosity. I think a lot of the TMZ universe are going to watch because of the Jordan Hudson thing. That's why Lee Roberts is like, I don't have a problem with this. It's good because he knows it's eyeballs on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're going to have a ton of views. For that.
Oh, I do too.
It's going to be a Dion effect to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you off camera. I mean, I would mainly because they would play late because, as you know, with football season, it was hard to watch stuff during the day on Saturdays when you're trying to cover Carolina. But I would catch myself a lot of times because Colorado was, those West Coast primetime games last year. They wouldn't kick off till like 10:30 at night sometimes. So I'd be sitting in bed, before I go to sleep, just watching Colorado, and actually not just watching it because it was on TV. Like, I actually would seek it out because I liked watching Shedeur Sanders and Dion and all that stuff. So I think Bill Belichick will have a very similar effect on people like, me kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, it'll be a different pool, but it'll be a similar pool at the same time. And if they win, they're going to rack up some numbers. If they're 4-0 and Clemson's unbeaten and Clemson comes in, that thing is good. And Carolina's got open date, I think, before Clemson.
I believe so, yeah.
They got 2 weeks to build that thing up.
They got some Friday night kickoffs, the games, the Halloween night, I think, where there will be one of the few teams playing, and that'll play a factor.
Monday and 2 Fridays.
That'll play a factor in views, 100%. You know what I mean? So I think Carolina TV-wise is going to do spectacular. I think even if they lose, AJ, if they're 0-6, it'll do spectacular because people like to tune in and watch that. You know what I mean? No, because
Carolina fan will be trashing Belichick on Twitter, tagging us.
No, please don't. Yeah, please don't start 0-6. I think it's a very, very, very low likelihood that happens, but I don't.
Chad will get mad that we're not asking Belichick the tough questions.
I love that you threw him in there. Shout out,
AJ. Why don't you ask him if he thinks he's over the hill?
Yeah, why don't you ask him why he can't coach anymore? Is basically that'll be the questions they want you to ask.
I'm a big Chad fan.
Yeah. Shout out Chad.
I've got no problem with it. Call us out. I've got no problem with that, man. I've had some. I've actually had some decent little chats with him and stuff. So.
I'm glad you shouted Chad out, man. I kind of forgot about Chad. I didn't forget about him, but he was out of my memory because
I think he's a Dodgers fan and was going after someone about Dodgers pitching the other day. So
just lives and breathes it, man. Absolutely love it.
Chad,
passion, right?
We want you to comment on. You only see on Twitter X, whatever.
Got to be on YouTube.
On this thread on X.
Yeah, if you got a YouTube channel, Chad, go ahead and comment below. I know you got one, but if you want to make yourself known, go ahead and let it. Shout out Chad, man. Shout out Chad for being a.
He's a late night tweeter too. Yeah. I wonder what time zone he lives in.
It's a good point. I mean, he's a Dodgers fan. Maybe he's a California guy. Who knows?
He's a late night tweeter.
Yeah, man, maybe that's his thing. Maybe he likes to stay up and tweet us.
I'm in the press box. 1:45 in the morning, all of a sudden, ping, ping, ping. Chad, AJ, you didn't ask back the tough question.
Yeah, it's like
yes.
Man.
Chad replied again. Chad's on there.
You gotta love it, man. I forgot about Chad. Like I said, we're not in season, so he'd gone out of my memory bank. But he's back in there now.
He commented on something last week. We put out that camera. What it was?
I love it, man. I love it. No days off for Chad, man. You gotta love the enthusiasm.
If he's in the area and we do a meet and greet at some point, maybe. If we have something to announce here in the next month or so, and then we do some kind of meet and greet, that'd be cool if he showed up.
I'd love to put a face to it just so we can kind of be like, oh, that's Chad. His real name. Maybe his real name's not even Chad. I don't think it is.
Well, I call him Chad in quotations. Right?
I know why you do that. Yeah.
I tweet at him. I have Chad in quotations.
Yeah. It's unlikely that's his real name.
I'll buy him a chocolate milk if we have a meet and greet.
Yeah. Get him a nice cold chocolate milk with some ice in it. That sounds half bad right now, actually. Can handle that. All right, man. I'm gonna go drink some chocolate milk. Yeah, I'm thirsty. We talked beer. Now we're talking chocolate milk. I mean, I'm a milk guy. I mean, I'm more of a just give me a plain milk and I'm fine.
There's a restaurant in Toronto on Yonge Street that it's an ice cream restaurant. They have food, but they specialize in ice cream and shakes, and they have alcohol in it.
Oh, that would be nice.
So you can have dessert, and you're eating ice cream as a dessert, and it's got alcohol in it.
God, there's as much sugar as you can fit in your mouth, right? That sounds fantastic, actually. Can you imagine getting drunk off that, though? Oh, my God. Talk about stomach pains. Jesus.
Well, you don't want to be around someone who's getting drunk off ice cream.
And just for some context, why AJ just knows that random fact about Toronto is because he used to live there for a little bit. So,
well, I worked there in my previous life for a while.
Yeah. People are like, how does AJ?
I dip my toes into a lot of establishments on Yonge Street.
Hey, guys, if you are let's do this real quick because we're getting ready to head on out of here. If you are a Canadian listener in the comment, go and comment below. If you live in Toronto, that'd be sick too. But I'm just curious to know. I know you can kind of look in YouTube. It'd be kind of interesting to see if they got.
I still talk to a few of my Canadian friends I made up there, and my wife and I were going to go to Halifax. We're going to go to New Brunswick, Halifax, and PEI, Prince Edward Island, this past spring. But she wasn't feeling well.
Yeah.
I didn't think we could handle that. So we moved our trip back a few weeks and we went to Jacksonville Beach and she was great. We're going to do the Halifax, Nova Scotia one. She really wants to go to Peggy's Cove. So those Canadians that are listening right now know that we know what's going on up there when we're talking Peggy's Cove.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. If you're a Canadian listener, get involved in the comments. I'd be very intrigued to know where if we got any Canadian listeners on. We probably do. I'd be shocked if we don't, but it'd be cool to actually know for a fact. So
I know that up there that they do follow college sports.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching a Notre Dame game up there one time on a Saturday, and they hated Notre Dame like the American.
Bigger. I'm sure it's bigger than you think it is. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of Carolina.
They know about the Final. In fact, my Canadian friends, when I was at the Final Four, I put stuff on Facebook. They were commenting and sending me notes about how cool that is, and like, you think Carolina can win? I mean, they know all about it.
Yeah, they're tuned in, man. Yeah, I'm not.
And they do have college sport. They have college football and basketball up there.
Yeah, they do. Professional football. Yeah, I mean, they good.
When I was up there, Western Ontario was one of the bigger football schools.
Interesting.
And a buddy of mine that I knew there played basketball at the University of Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool if they should just bring the Canadian colleges into the NCAA fold, man. Make it a little more interesting.
I schooled him though.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, man. I'm sure you did. I'm sure he'd say the same thing too, right?
That was back in the pre-girth days.
Back in your b-ball prime. I mean, you were a hooper back in the day. I'm sure you still got it in you, AJ, more than you think you do.
No, my shoulders and knees won't let me anymore.
That's true. If your shoulder and knee doesn't work very well, yeah, you probably don't have too much hope on the court anymore. But
yeah, I'm connected by threads.
Especially that shoulder, man. You can get away with the knee a little bit, but you can be a catch and shoot guy just standing in the corner. But if your shoulder,
I can't get my elbow in anymore.
God, that's a shame, man. That's a shame. And you're a big basketball guy. You played high school and all that stuff. Yeah. Played pickup for a long time afterwards too. I mean,
years and years.
That's a shame, man. That's a shame.
I couldn't shag a fly ball in center field again. I sure as hell couldn't get in a 3-point stance and block somebody. I'd like to.
I'd love for you too. It'd be great YouTube content, man. I'd love for you to do.
It's weird because they say when you play sports, you can always go back to a batting cage and hit and throw and shag fly balls. Basketball, you can play, pick up. When you finish playing football, you can't do that again. If you try, you get arrested.
Yeah, you can't just go.
I mean, it's one thing where you always wish you could just clobber somebody one more time, knock someone on their ass one more time.
Just to feel it, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't.
No, you get arrested real quick for that nowadays. Yeah, you can go play some flag.
At my age, I would die.
Yeah.
my brain and my chest would explode and I'd be done.
You just explode into a million pieces. Yeah, if you got someone.
Jim would inherit my baseball card collection and my debt. That would be it.
Like, thank God for that. Thankfully, AJ left all these goodies behind after he was exploded after being tackled by a football player for the first time in 30 years. Yeah, it'd be great YouTube content.
Oh boy, a Tom Seaver, 1974. You get a couple bucks for that.
You get a couple bucks. Hey, cards are popping now, man. You never know. You might have some winners. You might have some expensive cards.
40,000 baseball cards.
I'm not lying, AJ. Like, you might have some valuable ones in there. You need to dig through that at some point.
I do.
Yeah, 100%, man. Some of them go for thousands of dollars nowadays. It's insane, the market for that kind of stuff. So, all right, man. We're talking about baseball cards and you exploding after being tackled. So we probably should get out of here before we derail this podcast even further. But that's the fun with the off season. We can afford to do this a little. We got a little more time to actually sit on here and talk about season
sometimes.
We do, not as much as we'd like to. Probably
for people sometimes that they like when we go off the rails like this.
I do too. I think we should just start a conspiracy theory podcast and come on here and just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about for 2 hours.
What would be the number one conspiracy theory you would want to hit on?
JFK jumps out. I mean, that's one of my favorite ones. And I know the reason I say that'd be a good podcast topic is I know you're big into that one as well.
Yeah. I listen to it when I'm traveling. When I'm driving in the middle of the night traveling, I listen to a lot of JFK pods.
Oh, I go through phases with that too. I mean, I'm a big I like to when I need something to listen to, just to, take me to another place, I like to go into some.
Are you an Area 51 guy?
Yeah, big into aliens, big into UAPs, UFOs. Like I'm big into that. I was actually listening to a good one yesterday. I dip my toe in that pretty often as well. I'm big into the conspiracies, man. I really am. I'm blanking on a lot of them right now, but you let me write a list down.
A lot of them would probably not be good for us to mention here. Just mentioning, I'm like there's a lot of people who are 9/11 conspiracy people.
I almost said it. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I am or anything like that. I'm just saying there's a lot of them out there that I'm kind of hesitant to dip my toes into. And I still think there's so many people that saw something in Dealey Plaza and afterward that day. And remember when Carolina was in Fort Worth a few years ago, my rental car company was like 7 blocks from Dealey Plaza. First thing I did was drive over there, get out of the car, and I start sending you guys photos.
Yeah, no, it was awesome to see. I'd love to go.
The second time I've been there, I went there with a girl I was engaged to in the 90s. She wised up and married a lawyer.
Smart.
She says she's done well. We went back in the 90s.
I would love to. My dad's been. He's stood in the school book depository building where supposedly the shot came from. Lone gunman, supposedly, allegedly. That's all I'll say.
I think a shot came from.
I think a shot came from there. Now, I think you'd be crazy to think with all the evidence that was the only one, but and it's another test. See, that's what I'm saying, AJ. We hop on a podcast and do this. I wish we had.
What did Walter Matthau's character in JFK say? That dog don't.
I love that movie, man. I love that movie. I didn't even see it for the first time until a few years ago. But that's one of my favorite movies, man. Kevin Costner's so good, so good. But yeah, I go down that rabbit hole a few times a year. It's just so interesting, man. And there's so much evidence to the contrary of the official story that it's like, come on, man, you gotta be crazy to think this actually happened. So.
Well, it'd be nice if the current administration would come through with what they say.
Yeah, they keep saying, man, we're going to put them out, but it just...
Let's release it. But...
even if they put something out, it's not...
I'll say this. I'm of the belief that the American public probably can't handle the truth of everything.
I think there's probably some truth in that, yeah. Because, God, who knows what would
Or maybe we can because people have generally become so cynical.
And I think a lot of people.
I mean, what would really surprise us at this point?
I think, because I think a lot of people, if you just do kind of research on it, it's pretty obvious the official story.
I'm not really surprised anymore. I think some stuff is crazy, but crazy doesn't mean I'd be surprised.
No, there's a big difference between crazy stuff and being surprised about it.
Because the older I get, the less I hang on to man being able to save things and be, what should I say? I should just say, be like a savior. There is a greater savior.
100%.
I think that's why a lot of people, when they get older, they go to faith more because they recognize that man is just man. Yeah. When they're younger, they love certain politicians. They lead the way. They get emotional, and after a while, they realize they all fail you to some way.
Yeah, exactly. Just a human being.
We're talking about expectations. They have too high expectations.
Exactly. And I think there's a case to be made about the UAP and UFO stuff of if there's some advanced alien civilization we have contact with, I can understand maybe not wanting to just come out in a press conference and tell everybody that, because that could change a few things. But even that stuff's the most interesting because stuff comes out all the time, especially the last few years, and nobody really talks about it. It's something that kind of goes under the radar a little bit.
I think life is like being a Carolina football fan.
Yeah.
There are bouts of apathy, bouts of optimism. It's always followed by bouts of apathy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you look for a greater being. Their greater being now is Bill Belichick, but
come in and win some.
There's got to be something bigger than that. And I think in life there is something bigger than that. And that's why most of us end up in that neighborhood.
100%, man. 100%.
How's that for topping this thing off?
Yeah, great way to end this thing because I'm close to going down a UFO JFK rabbit hole for the next hour. So
I can do that.
Yeah, I could too. It'd be a great podcast, man. I absolutely.
I have JFK books and stuff here, and
I know. Yeah. I didn't realize how big you were on it until we, started talking about it one day, years ago now. But it was
it was years ago.
That kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I didn't do any JFK podcast when I was on my trip with Kim because that would have just been the end.
Yeah,
I don't think she cares. She's not really into stuff like that.
My wife, not really as much, a little bit, but no, not as. She can't go down the rabbit hole like I can.
She's more into the husband murdered wife, wife murdered husband, what really happened stuff.
That's more my wife is into true
like
crime.
The American Marriage, whatever that thing that's on. We watched that.
Mm-hmm.
That was in North Carolina.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Mm-hmm.
And then there's that Karen Reed trial in Boston right now.
Yeah, that one's all over the place.
We watched that thing, and she's like on the edge of her seat. It's like Game 7 of the World Series, man.
Yeah. Anything with that, my wife's the same way. Anything that involves like a romantic tie in there too, or a couple tie. Yeah, she absolutely loves that. I like some of that stuff, but
yeah,
not as up my alley as maybe a conspiracy theory. But I do like the true crime too. Don't get me wrong, I dive into that rabbit hole a lot too.
We do like serial killer stuff because I'm always fascinated at the mind of you and I've talked about that. I'm fascinated in the mind of a serial killer, how they can function and no one see it.
Oh, I know. You have no idea. Yeah.
The Green River Killer. Nobody knew.
No, nobody knew. It is amazing because it
had no idea.
And it makes it so interesting.
Pull it off. It's fascinating.
Yeah, because you as I like to think we're normal people, especially normal compared to that. I mean, just to be able to kind of see how they work. It's almost like seeing it from a distance is very, very interesting because you're like, how does that work? How do you do that kind of stuff? I mean, I love that kind of stuff too.
How does the brain see? That's why I'm a believer. Like, I don't think not guilty because of insanity. You have to be insane to know when they kill somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 100%.
It's all they're all insane. But when you're a serial killer, you're off your complete rocker. But somehow you can shift into no one will ever suspect me of anything mode.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. They think they might have a new serial killer in the New England area going on now too. I don't know if you've seen anything about that.
Yeah, I saw
a lot of bodies up there. It's fascinating, man. It's crazy. It's even more fascinating when it didn't happen like, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s when it seemed like they all happened. When it's like currently ongoing, Long Island serial killer.
It's harder now because of the cameras.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so much.
Yeah, 1972 was prime serial killing time.
It's amazing you watch it.
I remember as a little kid, like teachers talking in school about not hitchhiking. We were too young to hitchhike because that's when like girls were disappearing. Everybody would hitchhike back then.
Yes.
Girls would just disappear.
Yeah. A lot of it.
The thing that we watched recently, she really wanted to watch was Gabby Petito. Now we know what happened. We ultimately know what happened to that, but she wanted to watch how it played out.
That was a pretty wild one too. Yeah. With how that, I think the boyfriend's never been found, has he? I don't think so. They never found him. I don't think, or maybe they found his remains, but they didn't know if it was actually his. I forgot what it was, but like,
yeah, if we had a subscription to give away, I'd say, tell us, the first one to tell us to get a free subscription to THI, because this is a sports podcast, or it was, but who knows? Maybe we'll have something to give away down the road.
I do. If you are listening, get involved because I would love to know. What are your favorite conspiracies below? Let us know. There's going to be a lot of people looking in the comments who don't watch to the end. Like, why are they talking about UFOs in the comments?
Someone's going to come in here and say, why the hell are you wasting my time talking about that? We already finished the regular podcast.
Yeah.
This is a daily drop after hours.
You could have clicked off 10 minutes ago and we wouldn't have blamed you. So
daily drop after hours.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. How about conspiracies? Do you think that right now I was looking at Jeff Goodman posting just savage against Carolina's roster for the money that was spent. First comment I saw go in there. What is it about the national media suddenly, SHIQing all over North Carolina basketball all of a sudden? Do you think there's a conspiracy for national media? John Rothstein, you got Jeff Goodman. Remember, Armando made some snide remarks about Jeff Goodman.
I know.
Armando didn't like Jeff Goodman.
No, there is a lot of people out there.
I worked with Jeff at Fox Sports. I personally think Jeff's good for college basketball because he gets people talking about things others aren't comfortable bringing up.
100%.
I think Field of 68 actually is a very, very valuable tool for college basketball fans.
Yeah, I find myself listening to Field of 68 a lot during the tournament. I like some of the guys over there.
I think Oglesby's good. Doster knows his stuff. Goodman knows his stuff. He loves to ruffle feathers. It's good for business, and it's just kind of what makes him who he is. And he doesn't bring up stuff that's completely astronomical. When he's talking about, hey, is it time to talk about Hubert Davis? Mm-hmm. He's doing it when a lot of others either can't or won't. So But I do think it's interesting that there's a conspiracy theory among some Carolina fans how the national media is out to get them, including John Rothstein won't live it down for years.
Oh,
And
no.
he'll go out. Let's see if he goes out of his way to say nice things about Carolina.
I know.
Which you
And I
can't
guess
do. You can't do that. Like, you can't compensate.
And I hate to break it to people, but he was kind of right. Like with how the second game, like how the first round went. I mean, he wasn't. There's some truth in what he said. He got bashed about San Diego State, but
I think I put a photo on our Instagram, which we do have Instagram, by the way. We ain't ever promoted. I'm just messing with it. But I put a photograph on Instagram of him talking to Bubba in Dayton. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of us talked to Bubba afterwards.
Yeah, I remember that picture when you put it up because it was just, I mean, oh God, I think he was like the TV guy. He had to like interview the team on the court after they beat San Diego State. It's like, and then they go and did what they did against Ole Miss, and I'm sure he was just absolutely loving it after that. But
somebody trashed him the other day on something, and they ended up saying, "Anarchy, no, just John Rothstein's insane logic." He'll put stuff out there and.
Yeah.
Chaos? No, just college basketball.
Yeah,
I think he's good for college basketball too.
He got a lot of followers, man. So
I think all these guys are good for college basketball. We want different voices out there. We want people who are willing to say certain things because you have different roles in media. And when us and a couple others that are really close to the football and basketball program, we got to be careful about certain things, how we unveil our thoughts on certain things. We just, as my brother said, and this is one of the areas I really grew a lot as a journalist at THI, is I used to kill a fly with a hatchet. My brother said, man, you were killing flies with hatchets. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how not to do that. I had to learn how to be much more diplomatic. So my criticism at THI is far more diplomatic than a lot of the stuff I wrote when I was at Fox Sports. And I think I'm a much better journalist because of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I shared with you the one NC State column I wrote about the Wake County Wolfpack. I got this. There was destroyed over that. I had to park in a different place in home games so people wouldn't come after me.
I love that line, though.
It was great. I mean, I also had something really critical about Carolina and the Carolina way back in the day, but I wouldn't write that now that way. I would write it differently.
It's called growth.
And I think I would reach more people writing it the way I do now, the way I would now, as opposed to then.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's growth right there. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is a part of kind of doing this job a little bit. So,
and we're going to have some THI pods coming up where we talk about 11 years of THI because we're shifting away, as most of you know, and we'll have some other announcements to make about next phases and so forth. But we'll do some THI pods where we talk about the 11 years and
for sure. For sure, especially, we'll definitely do some of that stuff as it gets closer to that time. But
we're going to have multiple announcements about the log-off day for THI and about some other things. I can't say it now because a lot of stuff has to be finalized still.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it's
and there's, quite frankly, there's several options still to work through.
Yeah, it's still very
not just one,
very fluid situation, I would say. Probably the best way to put it, but keep it locked.
I'm very fortunate to have some different opportunities.
For sure. No, that speaks to the work you've done here at THI for the last 11 years, man, and beyond that. So keep it locked. I think you said in a previous podcast, but if you want to know about whatever announcement might come and all that kind of stuff, follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter. Links are below, in particular Twitter, because we'll definitely be putting it out there when the time comes. But yeah, keep subscribing to the YouTube channel. We're not going anywhere on that side of stuff for a while. So yeah, we appreciate everybody.
Even if there's a period in between, we're still going to be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube channel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So we're still going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Not going anywhere on that side of stuff.
I own those. So I'm going to keep them rolling, and we'll see how we transition to some other stuff.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But appreciate everybody as always for if you've stuck around this long, just give yourself a round of applause. You deserve a pat on the back too. So we appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe,
get with your life.
Yeah, get involved in the comments. Talk about Bill Belichick and this team, and what they could do this year, and also talk about UFOs and JFK and aliens and all that stuff. We'd love to hear about that too. So.
And Jeff Goodman.
Yeah, and Jeff Goodman too. Make sure you get a little Jeff Goodman comment in there as well. And also, if you're from Canada, I think that was the same podcast.
Yes, I think that was this one, wasn't it?
Can't even
Or
remember.
if you ever eat alcohol ice cream, was that the same
I
podcast?
think it was, man. That's how far off the beaten the trail we've gotten here, man. Good Lord, we have derailed this thing. This might be the most derailed podcast we've done, and I'm proud of us for doing that. So,
If we were on Flight Tracker, people would think we had gone down in the Bermuda Triangle.
yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. Another conspiracy right there, Bermuda Triangle. Great point.
I'm sorry, the flight was headed to Denver, but for some reason is in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, we don't know what happened there. It could have been aliens. So, appreciate it, guys. Yeah, who knows? We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.